Elara Vance, my cousin's girlfriend, came from nothing at every party and get-together. She was the butt of the joke, forced to swallow her pride and navigate the endless sea of condescending smiles with polite deference. But her breathtaking beauty and a profound sadness in her eyes stirred something in me I hadn't felt in a long time. Watching her and my cousin Julian fight before she stormed out, the devil on my shoulder started screaming, "If you want her, just take her." When I saw Laura waiting for a ride on the side of the road, I knew fate was handing me an opportunity on a silver platter. I pulled my car up smoothly in front of her. "Get in. I'll give you a ride." "Thank you, but you don't have to." "It's no trouble." Her bright eyes sized me up with a familiar, distant scrutiny, the same look she gave everyone in Julian's circle. She seemed determined to keep a wall between herself and his world, acutely aware of the chasm that separated them. I wasn't annoyed. I just stayed there, parked in front of her, scrolling through my phone. Not pushing but not leaving either. Then the heavens opened up. A torrential downpour descended in an instant, thick drops of rain blurring the world into a gray sheet. The flimsy awning of the bus stop was no match for the wind, and her clothes were quickly getting soaked. Elara clutched her phone, a flicker of desperation finally breaking through her composure. In this weather, at this time of night, getting an Uber was next to impossible. She looked from the rain to me, still sitting in my car pretending to be absorbed by my phone. After a long moment of internal debate, she finally made a decision, pulling open the passenger door and sliding inside. "I appreciate this. Don't mention it." I glanced over at the drenched woman beside me. The faint red lines in her eyes were more noticeable now, the brave face she'd been wearing finally cracking to reveal a deep, bone-weary exhaustion. She was achingly beautiful even in this moment of defeat. It was a kind of melancholy that made you want to both protect her and break her. Yeah, I thought to myself, I'm just in this for her looks, aren't I too? I picked up the thermos from the center console and offered it to her. Here, have something hot. You don't want to catch a cold." Her first instinct was to refuse, but remembering my earlier persistence, she relented. Her cold fingertips brushed against mine as she took it, a testament to how long she'd stood in the rain hesitating. Elara opened the thermos and took a large gulp, and immediately burst into a fit of violent coughing. The coughing fit brought a flush to her cheeks, which combined with the shimmer of tears in her eyes, only made her more radiant. "What is this?" she asked, her voice raspy. "Hot tea with ginger and honey," I said it casually. "You don't like ginger." She didn't speak, just gave a slight, almost imperceptible nod. I smiled my apologies. "I'll remember that for next time." Elara remained silent, but the tips of her ears turned a shade of pink. I watched her in the rear-view mirror. What an interesting woman. With the storm raging, I drove slowly, drawing out our rare moment alone, sensing her continued tension. I spoke softly, "Don't worry about what happened back there." A pale, rigid mask fell over Elara's face. Her family was poor. She'd only been able to finish her education thanks to a scholarship funded by Julian's family. Her looks eventually caught Julian's eye. When they first got together, they were inseparable. But their backgrounds were worlds apart, their personalities complete opposites. Cracks had begun to form. Julian's birthday party was as loud and extravagant as he was. He knew Elara was a fish out of water among his flashy trust fund friends, but he'd insisted she come anyway, only to let her sit on the sidelines and endure their snide remarks. I wondered if he did it on purpose. The gift she'd brought him, a gold chain that cost nearly, must have been her entire month's salary. To that crowd, however, it was just a tacky, cheap trinket, a fact they weren't shy about pointing out with backhanded comments and thinly veiled smirks. Elara gave a bitter smile. "I'm used to it. You must really love him then." She said nothing, just turned her head to stare out the window at the rain-streaked city. A slow smile crept across my face. Good. A little trouble just makes my job easier. Even though I had designs on my cousin's girlfriend, they hadn't actually broken up yet. That night felt like a beautiful, fleeting encounter, something that made my mind wander whenever I thought about it. It was like a kitten had scratched my heart, leaving a faint, tingling itch. I never expected fate to throw us together again so soon. Elara was at my company with her manager to present a proposal. She was wearing a dated, ill-fitting pantsuit. If it weren't for her stunning face, I might have walked right past without a second glance. Because of her, I paused outside the conference room, watching. The more I looked, the more my heart ached for her. The woman leading the presentation was fumbling, constantly needing Alara to whisper details and corrections. But every time Alara spoke up, her manager shot her a look of pure annoyance. In that half-hour meeting, I could already picture Alara's daily life at the office. Her boss held her down while her colleagues shut her out. It shouldn't have been like this. She was Julian Thorne's girlfriend. After all, Julian was the heir to the Thorne family fortune. If she had just dropped a single hint about their relationship, no one in her office would have dared to treat her this way. But remembering her proud, distant demeanor around Julian's friends, I understood. She valued her dignity above all else. Perhaps she was still naive enough to believe that hard work alone would get her everything she wanted. It was a purity that was almost pitiable. During a break, I overheard two of her male colleagues talking in the restaurant. I don't get it. Sterling is just trying to score points. It sucked for Alara though. She did all the heavy lifting just to have someone else steal the credit. Man, this world. It doesn't matter how pretty you are. If you don't have connections, all the hard work in the world won't get you anywhere. As they continued to lament, I calmly walked out. Through the glass wall of the conference room, I watched Alara diligently taking notes. A wave of sympathy washed over me. Perhaps my gaze was too intense because she suddenly looked up, her eyes meeting mine. A storm of complex emotions flashed across her face before she quickly suppressed it. Given the setting, I gave her a small smile and a wave before turning to leave. But I immediately sent a message to my department head. This project needed to go to the person who actually deserved it. Maybe it was because I was actively trying to poach her, but I kept running into Alara. Julian had dragged her to a cocktail party, and as luck would have it, I was there too. Alara was as awkward as ever in the glitzy, superficial world of high society. The fact that she could maintain a polite facade was a testament to her good breeding. One of Julian's friends, trying to be clever, put her on the spot, asking for her opinion on the red wine in his glass. Alara knew it was a trap. Instead of getting flustered, she simply admitted she didn't know much about wine. Julian's face darkened. He felt his girlfriend had embarrassed him in front of his friends. He pulled her into a deserted hallway, and they started arguing again. "Can't you just put in a little effort for me? You knew this was a wine tasting. You could have done some reading beforehand. I've been working overtime all week. It was hard enough just to get the day off to come here. Overtime? Overtime is your job more important than me? That pathetic job of yours barely pays anything. Why don't you just quit? It's not like I can't support you. You know what they say about me behind my back. What about my friends? So they said a few things. Do you have to be so sensitive? Besides, it's not like they were lying." Alara stopped arguing. Her ragged breathing was the only sign of her frustration. Someone called Julian's name and he instantly plastered on a smile, turning to join the conversation and leaving Alara standing alone in the shadows. I walked over and handed her a glass filled with a deep red liquid. "Try this. It'll make you feel better." Seeing me, a hint of shame and frustration crossed her face. She took the glass, murmuring, "Why do you always see me like this?" Seemingly overwhelmed, she drained the glass in one go. She must have thought it was wine. "But this is really good," she said, surprised. "What is it?" "Grape juice." I took a sip from my own glass. "Honestly, I think it's a lot better than all that bitter, acidic wine," I said with a contented sigh. I gave her a small smile. And this is what grapes were actually meant to be. Alara looked into my smiling eyes and finally the corners of her mouth twitched into a reluctant smile of her own. I offered to drive Alara home. It was obvious she didn't belong here. Second time playing chauffeur for her unwillingly. I thought to myself, "Oh, thank you for the work thing," she said after a while. "I should have thanked you sooner. I just never had the chance. It was you, wasn't it?" She already knew. "You're the one who told my manager to give the project back to me." Back to her. So she knew exactly what she was worth. And she knew exactly how she was being treated. I smiled faintly. "It had nothing to do with me. You did great work. You earned it. Throwing your weight around to help someone just makes them a target. True support is subtle, like a gentle rain. I hadn't stepped in and used my name to protect her. I'd simply had my manager objectively suggest that the most qualified person should lead the project. No one was an idiot, it was obvious who that meant. With a single sentence, I'd solved a problem that had been plaguing her. Julian could have done the same. Of course. But he couldn't be bothered. I looked at Alara's delicate features and said softly, I don't think people who work hard should be taken for granted. They shouldn't be buried. Don't you agree? Alara smiled, a genuine, radiant smile filled with the joy of being recognized. It was so bright it was dazzling. I bit my lower lip, cursing inwardly. This woman must be some kind of enchantress. She knows exactly how to get to you. Alara was in my passenger seat again. As usual. I drove slowly, even in the dense city traffic, savoring the moment. The smooth, upbeat music from the car speakers reflected my good mood. An unspoken understanding flowed between us. Alara kept stealing glances at me. I knew it. Finally she spoke, her voice laced with hesitation. Lucas, you. She took a deep breath. I don't mean to be presumptuous, but I just need to know if I'm imagining things. I mean, given that I'm with. Yes, I cut in, not wanting to hear Julian's name from her lips. Even if he was my cousin. It's exactly what you think. I didn't beat around the bush. Alara, I'm attracted to you. Liking someone isn't a crime. It was, however, a little immoral at the moment. But I have a boyfriend. I know, the smile in my eyes was a challenge. So I'm waiting for you to break up. A faint flush of anger appeared on her face, but it was overshadowed by shame and embarrassment. Don't you think that's incredibly inappropriate? Mr. Sterling, it's wrong? What's wrong about it? My plan is to steal my cousin's girlfriend. You know, my tone was still perfectly calm. You two are going to break up sooner or later. With or without me. The uncomfortable truth had been exposed. Flustered, Alara tugged at the collar of her shirt. Please, pull over. I pressed my foot on the accelerator. Once you're in my car, you don't get to just walk away. With my desires laid bare, the fragile, ambiguous atmosphere between us shattered, replaced by a tense silence that filled the car. I drove aimlessly for a while before finally speaking. Alara, even if I like you, the choice is still yours. You can't hold my feelings against me. She was, at her core, a rational person. I'm sorry. I pulled the car over to the curb and turned to face her, my gaze intense. Her skin was fair, her frame slender, giving her an almost academic air, but her hybrid nose added a touch of cool, aristocratic elegance. Right now a mix of embarrassment and conflict warred within her, the collision of fragility and aloofness creating a strange, devastating beauty. Woman this beautiful, this interesting, it would be a true shame not to make her mine. My eyes locked on hers. Alara, I said, each word deliberate. Relationships are complicated. You know what's wrong between you and Julian better than anyone. I don't know what's making you hold on, but sometimes you have to be brave. I leaned in closer. At the very least, you should know what you want, Mr. Sterling. You have an agenda. And you knew I had an agenda, yet you accepted my help and got into my car. What's on your mind, Ms. Vance? Her eyes, now rimmed with reed, stared back at me, a hint of vulnerability in their depths. That single look sent a shiver through me. This woman knew exactly how to use her strengths. I'm just honest about what I want. That's all. What about you? Can you honestly say you feel nothing for me? My gaze dropped to her thin, beautiful lips, and I leaned in. I was acting calm, but my heart was pounding against my ribs. What if she pushes me away? What if she yells at me? What if? But she did none of those things. Instead, Alara slowly closed her eyes. She was waiting for it too. In the end, I raised my hand and covered her mouth, pressing a kiss to the back of my own hand, my palm against her lips. Her eyes flew open, up close. Our gazes locked, and it was electrifying. Our breaths mingled in a small space, the air thick with tension. The tips of Alara's ears were blood red. I pulled back and sat up straight in my seat, casually taking out a handkerchief to wipe my other palm, which had been slick with nervous sweat. I laughed at myself. It's not like I'm some teenage kid new to this. Why am I so damn nervous? I took a deep, discreet breath, forcing myself to remain composed. I apologize. Alara looked at me. Confused. For what? If my words or actions made you uncomfortable, I apologize. Okay, she whispered, looking down, but her conflict and disappointment were plain to see. Now that the seed was planted, I just had to let time and water do their work. I threw myself back into my work. On a few occasions, I ran into Julian. He was always with a different woman. That cousin of mine always did play the field. I didn't interfere, just offered a polite greeting and moved on. In love, it's not just men who turn into Sherlock Holmes. Women are just as perceptive when they suspect they're being cheated on. But it seemed Julian wasn't ready to let Alara go. Maybe because of that exceptionally beautiful face of hers. Yet every time he tried to get close to her, there are fundamental differences would Dr. Wedge between them. Like right now. I hadn't seen Alara in over a month, and of all things, Julian brought her to Willow Creek Estate. He was always dragging her into circles where she didn't belong. It was deliberate. They exchanged a few sharp words and parted in anger. Alara, bored and aimless, wandered through the gardens and happened upon me by the pond sketching. She was so conflicted. One part of her wanted to come closer while the other screamed at her to keep her distance. I broke the silence. Come see my drawing. That seemed to give her the excuse she needed. She strode over. When she saw the sketch on the easel, a flicker of secret pleasure crossed her stoic face. It was a drawing of a coolly elegant woman standing by a lily pond. A few simple lines had captured her very essence. You're very good. The subject is even better. Alara looked down, 1,000 unspoken words trapped behind her lips. I took the drawing off the easel and handed it to her. It's yours. She took it carefully, her fingers tracing the lines as she whispered, Thank you. Seeing she had nothing to do, I offered to show her around the estate. You know this place well, she commented. It's my mother's. I lived here for many years. I casually plucked a few cherries from a nearby tree and offered them to her. My grandmother planted this tree when I was a kid. Try one. She didn't hesitate, popping one in her mouth. A little tart, but I like it. I'll pick one for myself, me too. I think it's perfect. Alara quickly looked away, searching for a new topic. We had a cherry tree in front of our house back home. Every year around this time, it would be loaded with cherries. My grandma never got mad at the neighborhood kids for picking them. She said we could never eat them all before they spoiled anyway. She would preserve the sour ones in sugar, and we'd eat them with a spoon. A soft, nostalgic warmth filled her eyes as she spoke of her family. Alara's parents had died when she was young, and she was raised by her grandmother. But the old woman passed away from an illness during Alara's junior year of college, leaving her completely alone in the world. Her reluctance to let go of Julian was probably tied to that old sense of gratitude for his family's financial help. Alara, what are you doing here? Julian appeared out of nowhere, his voice sharp with accusation. Don't you know this is a private estate? There are areas off limits to guests. Any single piece of art in here is worth a fortune. If you broke something, you could never afford to replace it. Were you thinking, wandering around? He continued his tirade. I told you to stick with me, but you never listened. I even arranged for you to meet a few important clients. Everything I do is for your own good. Alara was standing just in front of me, completely blocking his view, ranting. Julian didn't even see me. What's that in your hand? Did you even wash those cherries before eating them? They're filthy. He snatched the cherries from her hand and threw them on the ground. What's so great about these anyway? They're sour and bitter. Didn't I just buy you those expensive imported ones? And you're still craving this junk? I couldn't see Alara's face, but from the rigid set of her shoulders, I knew she was mortified. I stepped out from behind her. Julian, it's Alara's first time at Willow Creek. Don't be so hard on her. Lucas, what are you? Julian's eyes darted between me and Alara, a storm of anger, resentment, and a strange, hidden excitement brewing in his gaze. He stepped forward and wrapped his arm-possessive lie around Alara. Sorry about that, CUZ. My girlfriend doesn't know any better. Hope she wasn't too much trouble. No trouble at all. Well, we'll get going then. Goodbye. Alara glanced back over her shoulder at me standing under the cherry tree, a look of unspoken anxiety on her face. But I just kept a pleasant smile, giving a casual wave. Inside, the devil was screaming again. Go on, take her from him. The dinner party was also held at Willow Creek. The estate's private chef was legendary, and reservations were only available to close friends of the family. Being in the same place, another encounter was inevitable. Julian was like a different person. He clung to Alara, holding her hand with their fingers intertwined in a blatant display of ownership. But the whole performance felt staged. His friends played along, cheering and goading them to kiss for the crowd. Alara's eyes instinctively found mine from across the room. Our gazes met, but I kept my expression perfectly neutral. Before she could react, Julian lunged forward and kissed her. It was a long, theatrical kiss, so long it felt like time had stopped. My hands clenched into fists, my palms slick with sweat. So I wasn't as indifferent as I pretended to be. Friends next to me chuckled. Young people these days so bold. I managed a tight-lipped smile but said nothing. Julian finally pulled away from Alara, a smug look on his face as he immediately tried to gauge my reaction. But I was already deep in conversation with a friend, giving him nothing. Alara, however, looked pale. The three of us knew exactly what that public display of affection was about. Being used as a prop to show off would make anyone feel sick. She made an excuse and fled to the restroom, her retreat looking more like a desperate escape. Julian approached me, his voice dripping with provocation. "Lucas, Alara and I are thinking about getting engaged. You'll wish us well, won't you?" "I wish you well no matter who you were engaged to." Julian opened his mouth as if to argue, then seemed to think better of it, mumbling, "Well, thanks for that, I guess." When Alara returned, she was met with a chorus of congratulations, leaving her utterly bewildered. Julian just stood beside her, smiling serenely and accepting the well wishes without offering her a single word of explanation. I sipped my tea and watched the farce unfold. Knowing Julian's personality, there was no way he would ever marry Alara. By making a scene like this, he was only speeding up their inevitable breakup. As expected, the moment Julian floated the news of his engagement to Alara, he was met with a tidal wave of ridicule and resistance from all sides. His situation was different from mine. I was an only son. His family was crawling with illegitimate children. Because of that, his family would never permit him to marry carelessly. Even if he wasn't expected to secure a strategic alliance through marriage, he was at least expected to marry someone of equal social standing. Julian, with his flashy personality, would be mocked relentlessly by his friends for marrying a poor girl with no background. Sure enough, as I walked into the living room, I could hear my aunt arguing with him. "I don't care who you date, but marriage is different. This isn't something you can just decide on a whim. I'm not asking you to appreciate the sacrifices I've made for you and this family, but at least think about yourself. You know what your father is like. That illegitimate son of his got engaged to the youngest daughter of the Thorne family, and just because it helps start companies, your father acknowledged him publicly. And that illegitimate daughter? She's with the third master of the Sterling family. She's not even his wife, just his mistress. And your father is already calling her his dear daughter and even gave her a job at the company. And you? I'll let you get away with your partying and playing around, but are you really going to stand by while outsiders carve up the family business and leave you with nothing? Julian, you always have to have the best of everything. Why is it when it comes to women, you can't? All right, stop. I'll break up with her. We'll break up, okay? Julian stormed out of the room, running straight into me. His eyes were red-rimmed as he glared at me. Are you happy now, Lucas? I feigned innocence. I have no idea what you're talking about. Don't you dare tell me you're not interested in Alara. Even if I am, she's still your girlfriend, Lucas. If we break up, won't you feel even a little bit guilty? I smirked. Not at all. I looked him straight in the eye. Your relationship had problems long before I came along. You are going to break up sooner or later, with or without me. What happens between us is none of your business. Don't worry. I won't do a thing. I'll just stand back and watch you march toward the inevitable conclusion. Julian sneered. You think you'll get what you want even if we do break up? He leaned in, his voice a devilish whisper. Stealing your own cousin's girlfriend. You really are a great cousin, aren't you? I just smiled back at him. It's not stealing. If I decided to actually pursue her, do you honestly think you'd stand a chance? Julian shot me one last hateful glare and ran out of the house. Julian didn't break up with Alara. It was as if he was doing it just to spite me. Not only did they stay together, but he deliberately invited me to dinner with them, acting as if our argument had never happened. Lucas, Alara and I are looking at engagement rings. You know a lot of jewelry designers, right? Any recommendations? I can give you some names, but their work is meticulous. It'll take some time. I don't care. I'm willing to wait. Julian took Alara's hand and pressed it to his chest. Alara and I have been through so much already. A little time is nothing. He then happily ordered for the table. The waiter politely confirmed the order and asked, "Are there any dietary restrictions?" "None," Julian said automatically. But I spoke up. "No ginger in any of the dishes, please." At my words, Alara's head snapped up. Her eyes fixed on me. Julian was confused. "Since when did you get so picky, Lucas?" I just smiled, saying nothing, but a small secret thrill went through me. So he didn't even know that about her. Julian chatted on excitedly about the engagement, detailing the style of wedding dress, the diamond tiara, the tuxedos. I knew he had an ulterior motive, but I played along. Adult conversations require a certain amount of reading between the lines and letting things slide. Just then, a middle-aged woman approached our table. Well, I thought my eyes were deceiving me. "Mr. Sterling and Alara, what a surprise." Alara stood up. "Ms. Davidson, what a coincidence." The manager's eyes scanned Alara critically before she turned a fawning smile on me. "It certainly is a coincidence. So you two know each other?" I was wondering how. "Oh my, I feel so foolish. If I had known you were acquainted, I would have just given the project to Alara from the start instead of making you intervene." "Rest assured, Mr. Sterling, Alara's abilities are well known in our company. I'm certain she'll deliver a perfect result for your project." I just smiled pleasantly at Ms. Davidson, not engaging, letting my polite silence dismiss her. She got the hint and after another moment excused herself. But as she left, she threw one last grenade over her shoulder. "Hey Laura, make sure to stay close with Mr. Sterling. Don't forget who gave you a leg up." I had to resist the urge to laugh. Ms. Davidson had floated in, dropped a ticking time bomb, and floated away without a scratch. Julian was practically vibrating with rage. He bit out through clenched teeth. "You two have been in touch behind my back." Alara frowned slightly. "It's not what you think." "Then what is it?" Julian's nerves were already frayed, and Ms. Davidson had just lit the fuse. I had no intention of getting caught in the crossfire. "It seems like you'd have things to discuss," I said, standing up. "I'll be going. We can do this dinner another time." "Lucas Sterling." Julian's shout echoed through the crowded restaurant, drawing stares. "Are you satisfied now that you've taken what's mine?" I looked at my hysterical cousin calmly. "She's not a thing. She's a person." I didn't want to get caught in the blast radius, but I wasn't about to miss an opportunity to move in. So I watched their argument from a safe distance. "When did you two start hooking up? Have you kissed? Have you slept together? Alara, do you have a heart? Have you forgotten who paid for your education?" Alara seemed to have weathered so many of these fights with Julian that she was surprisingly calm. "Just because your family helped me once, does that mean I'm your property forever?" She sighed wearily. "There's nothing going on between me and Mr. Sterling." "You think I'm going to believe that?" Julian roared. "Alara, I'm not an idiot. He's my cousin. I know him better than you do. Lucas Sterling has always been arrogant and distant. He doesn't care about anything, so why would he suddenly take an interest in you if there was nothing between you? Why would he help you?" Julian was completely unhinged. No explanation would get through to him. He snatched Alara's phone. After unlocking it, he froze, his face a mask of disbelief and rage. His voice was laced with fury. "This is your nothing. Using his drawing as your phone's wallpaper?" An awkward flush crept up Alara's neck. The drawing wasn't signed. She was shocked Julian recognized it. She instinctively reached for her phone, but Julian threw it violently to the ground, where it shattered into pieces, just like their relationship. "Why would you do this to me?" It could have been anyone. But why him? Why Lucas? Why didn't you come to me when you had problems? Why did you have to go to him? Why are you doing this to me? Alara stared at her broken phone, a bitter, resigned smile on her face. "Lucas, Lucas, Lucas. It's always about Lucas. Julian, I am a person. Not some trophy you can parade in front of him to make yourself feel better. You wanted to break up with me long before he even came back, didn't you? She looked at the man she once loved, her voice hollow. I heard you that day. I heard you talking to your friends. I saw you kiss that model. You said I was boring, stubborn, and stuck in my ways. You rationally analyzed all the downsides of being with me, and you said I wasn't worth it. All these events you've dragged me to lately you were deliberately trying to humiliate me, trying to force me to be the one to end things. You just never expected Lucas. Alara looked at him, her voice flat. You saw that Lucas was interested in me, and that's what started all of this. Julian, we should have broken up a long time ago. He stared at her, his voice barely a whisper. You're right. You're not good enough for me. We should have broken up a long time ago. And with that, Julian walked away, looking utterly lost. He had gotten the outcome he secretly wanted, but now that the day had finally come, he couldn't stand it. Alara sat on the curb, looking exhausted and broken. I pulled up in front of her and slowly rolled down the window. She glanced at my car once before getting into the passenger seat. She leaned her head wearily against the window. Are you happy now? Reasonably. I really don't want to see you right now, and I definitely don't want you seeing me like this. Then I'm afraid you're going to be disappointed. I think this is the perfect time to make my move. And for the record, you look especially beautiful right now. There's a certain beauty in being broken. She sighed, a bitter smile on her lips. Lucas, you got what you wanted. A cold edge entered my voice. You know perfectly well that you two would have broken up even without me. Yet you're sitting here complaining to me, taking it out on me for no reason. Is it because you know I like you? Alara opened her mouth, but no words came out. Why does he hate you? She asked quietly. I considered it for a moment. Probably because I'm too successful. She managed a weak smile that didn't reach her eyes. Honestly, I never fully understood Julian's bizarre animosity toward me. A mutual friend once suggested it was because we were cousins and were constantly being compared. The achievements that came so effortlessly to me were things Julian couldn't reach even on his tiptoes. So he resented me. He was jealous of me. When he realized I was interested in Alara, his competitive ego took over. And in the end, it was what made him push her away for good. Where to now? To get you a new phone. Alara just stared at me. After a long silence, she finally spoke. Are you going to be another Julian? I scoffed. Are you trying to insult me? She looked down at her hands. You wouldn't be another Julian. You're smarter than him, much more cunning. You rich, powerful heirs. You get everything you want without lifting a finger. And no matter how hard I work, no matter how many obstacles I overcome, I'll just end up as another cog in the corporate machine. I thought Julian and I were just a normal couple. I even let myself dream about having a home with him. It wasn't until I heard him talking to his friends that I realized how pathetic I was to him. I was just a game. Lucas, I lost. I can't afford to play. If you're just looking for a game, please don't mess with me. I slammed on the brakes, pulling over sharply. I turned to her, my eyes blazing. Alara, you're not me, so don't judge me. And I am not him, so don't you dare diminish me. I do like you. It's about you. And it has nothing to do with anyone else. I went with Alara to buy a new phone. As I watched, she naturally set the wallpaper to the sketch I had drawn for her. She noticed me watching and blushed. I really like this drawing, she said, as if trying to justify it. I smiled. I like it too. There's no signature. How do you know it was yours? I understood then. When we were kids, I loved to draw. Teachers and family all praised me for it. So Julian insisted on learning too. He copied everything I drew. He spent years imitating my style, so he knows my brush strokes. I see. Seeing the pensive look on her face annoyed me. Alara, did you break up after a scene like that? Of course we did. Good. What's good about it? What's good is now I can finally pursue you openly. I strode ahead, and in the gleaming reflection of the mall's polished floor, I saw the conflicted joy on her face. I drove Alara out to the coast just to feel the ocean breeze, but this hopelessly unromantic woman curled up in the passenger seat and fell asleep. I parked the car, bought 2 beers, and sat on the beach staring out at the waves. Night began to fall. Aren't you cold? Her voice came from behind me, It's refreshing. Sorry I fell asleep, but I actually slept really well. You're wound too tight. You need to learn to relax. She picked up the beer I had been drinking and finished the rest of it. I sighed. I may be a rich kid, but I don't make a habit of drunk driving. Alara looked from me to the car, embarrassed. It was a rare moment of adorable clumsiness from this otherwise composed woman, and I found it incredibly charming. Whatever. Thank God for services like Uber. She laughed, a real, relaxed laugh that held a girlish charm. She flopped out onto the sand without a care in the world. Lucas, thank you. For what? I don't know. I just wanted to thank you. That's not a very sincere thank you. In a sudden movement, Alara sat up and pushed me back onto the sand. Her beautiful face drew close, but the kiss I was expecting never came. Maybe this is too soon. I reached up and caressed her cheek. There's no should or shouldn't. There's only want and don't want. You're right. An intense energy surrounded me as her lips found mine in an urgent, searing kiss. Alara might look prim and proper, but her kiss was demanding and fierce, lingering and deep. She even bit my lip, drawing blood. This woman was definitely working through some things. She tasted the blood and pulled back reluctantly. Sorry, I touched my lip casually. How long has it been for you? You seem a little eager. She looked away, embarrassed. Knowing someone wants to break up with you and still sleeping with them. That's not something a smart girl does. Nice girls finish last. Alara fell silent. I gently pinched her cheek. But I like a girl with a good head on her shoulders. I drove Alara home the third time. I had willingly played chauffeur for a woman. You're done for. Lucas Sterling, I told myself. She hesitated at heard or. Do you want to come up for a bit? I looked at her with a knowing smile. Inviting a man with an agenda into your apartment? I might think you have an agenda of your own. Fine. Don't come up. It's not a good time anyway. You're right, it isn't. We both need to adjust. But did he ever stay the night here? No. A shadow passed over her eyes. I saved up and bought this place myself. It's a foreclosure. As you can see, it's an old building. Not in the best shape. He didn't like it. He thought it was beneath him. I nodded with a gentle smile. I think I'm gonna like it. I'll see you next month. Why next month? Because I'm leaving for a business trip to France tomorrow. I'll be back in a month. I held her gaze. You know how I feel, but do you know how you feel? Let's give ourselves some time. Give me your answer in a month, okay? See you in a month. After she went inside, my heart was still racing. I'd had partners before, but they were always casual, easy come, easy go. Nothing like this fierce, sudden storm. I needed time. Time to let things settle so I could properly face this unexpected, overwhelming feeling. A month flew by. I didn't contact Alara, nor did I keep tabs on Julia. I just focused on my own work. When the agreed-upon day arrived, I called her. She answered on the first ring. There was silence on the other end, but I could hear her breathing and I sensed her nervousness. Time's up. I'm back. Do you want to meet? She was quiet for a long time. Even her breathing seemed to deepen. Then her voice came through the line. Lucas, I've missed you. A smile spread across my face. Then I'll come over tonight. Okay? See you tonight. I could feel the thunderous beat of my own heart, a long-forgotten thrill of joy and anticipation. That evening, I arrived at her apartment right on time. Alara was wearing loungewear, but she had clearly just showered. A faint woody scent clung to her skin. It was a scent I loved. She stared at me intently. You look very handsome tonight. I smiled. That's probably because I'm wearing exactly what you wanted to see. The moment the door closed, I pulled her into my arms and a storm of kisses rained down on us. Everything that followed was as natural as breathing. We were not inexperienced teenagers, but we fit together with a surprising, perfect synchrony. For me, it was the deep satisfaction of a desire fulfilled. As for Alara, she was wide awake as she let herself fall. We never had a formal, I love you conversation, we just knew we were together. Alara had a deeply domestic soul. Perhaps because she'd lost her parents so young, she yearned for a home life. Her apartment, though small, was incredibly cozy and warm. The balcony was filled with plants, including tomatoes, peppers, and green onions. She disliked eating out and loved to cook. Her skills were impressive, and her fridge was always stocked. She carefully selected every piece of furniture and had even bought a large bouquet of red roses to welcome me. Surveying her little home, I thought, no wonder she and Julian could never make it work. Wearing one of her white turts, I looked at the breakfast spread she had prepared. Pancakes, scrambled eggs, bacon, and oatmeal. I had to laugh. Why did you make so much? I didn't know what you liked. I chose the scrambled eggs and bacon. I lived abroad for many years, but I've always been a fan of a classic American breakfast. I took a bite. The eggs were fluffy. The bacon perfectly crisp. This is delicious, really. Of course. I want to try the pancakes too. I used her fork to take a bite. They were light and flavorful. These are amazing too. I'll make them for you again tomorrow. The warm, peaceful breakfast was shattered by the shrill ring of her phone. It was on the table and I could clearly see the caller ID. Julian. Her first instinct was to decline the call, but the phone immediately started ringing again. I took a sip of my coffee. Go on, answer it. It's not like I'm going to stop you. Alara put the call on speaker. Julian's voice was sharp and unhinged, as if he were drunk. You make me sick, Alara. She frowned. Breaking up was what you wanted. Why are you insulting me? I'm right downstairs. I saw Lucas's car. You slept with him, didn't you? Alara didn't answer, but her silence was its own confirmation. Alara, I hate you. I'm disgusted by you. Why him? It could have been anyone, but why did it have to be Lucas? And don't forget. Alara, you're nothing but a charity case my family took in. Do you have any idea how much money we spent on your education? Have you paid us back? How dare you run off with another man? You're ungrateful. You're a monster. He was still ranting, and I could hear his friends in the background trying to calm him down. Come on, Julian, let's just go. The call ended. The warmth of the morning vanished, replaced by a heavy, oppressive silence. I looked at Alara calmly. Why did you two get together in the first place? She met my gaze and after a moment said, because he promised me a home. Memories always have a rosy filter, and Alara's past with Julian was no exception. A poor, humble girl meets a cheerful, wealthy young man. She thought it was fate, only to be crushed by the harsh realities of their differences. Julian probably didn't even miss her that much. It was his ego that was bruised, especially since the other man was me. But listening to her talk about their past, I felt a complex mix of emotions. Julian was right about one thing. I am arrogant and distant. I don't care about much. Alara was the one exception. I'd always looked down on my useless cousin. But for the first time, I envied his luck for having met her first. Turns out I was just an ordinary man after all. Alara, you two are broken up, of course. She took my hand, her grip firm. And now I'm your girlfriend. I disentangled my hand only to link my fingers with hers. Good. Then I hope this is the last time I ever hear you mention your ex-boyfriend. A strange light flickered in her eyes as she looked at me. She suddenly tumbled into my lap. So you do get jealous. I stroked her cheek, savoring the feel of her skin. Of course I get jealous and envious. Never underestimate a man's jealousy. It can be a very ugly thing. Her eyes filled with delight. She hadn't been sure if I was just another Julian or if I was using her to get back at him. My possessiveness brought her a strange kind of joy. Alara leaned in and kissed me, pulling me down with her into a dizzying spiral of passion. We spent the rest of the morning tangled together on her small sofa. In the haze of it all, I asked her, Alara, do you love me? She didn't answer with words, only with the increasing intensity of her touch. Julian and I are cousins. Avoiding him forever was impossible. Our next meeting, fittingly, was at Willow Creek Estate. The last time Julian had used this place to announce their sham engagement. This time, Alara was here as my girlfriend. I had invited a few artist friends for a day of painting in the gardens, and Alara was posing for me under a willow tree by the lily pond. The painting would take hours, so after finishing the initial sketch I told her to wander around and enjoy the grounds instead of being stuck there. She was reluctant to leave, lingering by my side for a while before finally and wistfully walking off. When I had made enough progress, I went to find her. I found her surrounded by Julian and his cronies. So, Alara, you break up with me and a month later you're with Lucas? You're disgusting. Julian sneered. Or maybe it's more accurate to say you were cheating on me. Alara's face was pale, but she remained composed. Think whatever you want. The fact is, I only got together with Lucas after we broke up. Huh? Who's going to believe that? You two are already sleeping together. If you weren't already hooking up behind my back, then I guess that just makes you a cheap slut who throws herself at any rich guy who looks her way. Alara was as white as a sheet, but faced with Julian's relentless, delusional attacks, any explanation was useless. He wouldn't believe her because he didn't want to. She sighed. Believe what you want. Since we're broken up, let's just stay out of each other's lives. You think I want to see you? If I hadn't brought you into this world, you never would have had the chance to sink your claws into Lucas. Julian's voice rose to a hysterical shriek. You think Lucas is some saint? He steals his own cousin's girlfriend. He's a hypocrite. You're both trash, disgusting, shameless, and pathetic. Alara finally snapped. Isn't breaking up what you wanted? Stop blaming everything on Lucas. We would have broken up even if he never existed. I walked calmly toward the group. Julian shot me a look of pure hatred. My voice was even unclear. Julian, Alara is my girlfriend now. Please show her some respect. Her life is none of your business. I can't believe the high and mighty Lucas Sterling would lower himself to being the other man. Don't be so dramatic. Yes, Alara and I are together, but it was after you broke up. Do you even believe that yourself? Lucas? So what are you really angry about? That you and Alara broke up, or that Alara is with me? I stared him down. If Alara's new boyfriend wasn't me, if he were just some average guy, Julian, be honest with yourself. Would you be amused? Or would you be gloating? Julian glared at me, speechless. He could accept breaking up with Alara, he just couldn't accept her new boyfriend being me. I glanced at Julian and his posse of hangers-on. Willow Creek is my mother's estate, I said with a smile, while parts of it are open to the public. I still have the final say on our guest list. From now on, this little garden will no longer be open to any of you. I took Alara's hand and turned to leave. Lucas! Julian yelled, his voice thick with rage and resentment. Alara is just my cast-off. Something I already used. Aren't you disgusted by my leftovers? Alara, you're nothing but a dog our family fed. Did you pay back the money before you started wagging your tail for a new master? Alara froze, her body rigid, her palm cold and slick with sweat. Such vicious words coming from the man she once loved. I turned around calmly, a pleasant smile on my face, and walked back toward Julian. My hand swung, and a sharp crack of my palm connecting with his cheek echoed in the quiet garden. Julian stared at me, his hand flying to his face, his eyes wide with disbelief. You hit me? You actually hit me for a woman? Julian, watch your mouth. Your words don't just degrade others, they degrade you. I took a black card from my wallet and tossed it on the ground at his feet. This is for my girlfriend to pay you back. I'm sure it's several times more than what your family ever gave her. The relationship is over. The debt is paid. Remember this, Julian. There is nothing between you two anymore. Julian's eyes were practically shooting flames. But when he met the cold fury in my gaze, it triggered a deep-seated fear. His lips trembled, and in the end, he turned and left, his face a mask of bitter defeat. Julian's little drama had thoroughly ruined the mood for painting. Alara just looked at me, a whirlwind of emotions in her eyes. Just say what's on your mind. She finally spoke, her voice hesitant. I don't actually owe him anything. I know. I took a sip of tea. Your first 9 years of school were public. The Thorne family might have helped with living expenses, but it was based on the average for a low-income family. The only real expense was high school tuition. You paid for your own college tuition by working. All in all, did their financial support even break? And if we're going to be clinical about it, you worked at Thorne Industries for 2 years for only a base salary. That more than covers it. Not to mention all the gifts you bought them for holidays, birthdays, and anniversaries over the years. If you really did the math, who owes who would be anyone's guess. Alara gave a bitter smile. So you knew all along. She sighed. I wanted us to be equals in our relationship, so before we even started dating, I worked hard to pay back everything I felt I owed his family. To them, that money was nothing, probably less than one of Julian's suits, but to me, it was important. I smiled at her. This was the root of their problem. Alara came from poverty, but she had immense pride. The things she considered important, the things she worked so hard for, were completely meaningless in Julian's eyes. He wanted a beautiful, obedient accessory he could show off. He never respected her as a person and probably found her efforts to be equal naive and pathetic. A breakup was always just a matter of time. You knew all that and you still gave him the money? It doesn't matter. Consider it a payment for emotional damages. If it bothers you, just do an excellent job on the Sterling account. That will be repayment enough for me. The project is already wrapping up. It's just... I looked at her encouragingly. Whatever you want to do, I'll support you. A look of determination settled on her face. I think I'm gonna quit. The atmosphere at work is toxic. Before, when they thought I had no connections, they held me down. Now that they know I know you, they're kissing up to me in the most suffocating way. My manager keeps making empty promises, and honestly, I can't stomach it anymore. Then leave. After the project is done, take some time off. Figure out what you really want to do. I took her hand and squeezed it. Go do what makes you happy. I've got your back. Alara took my advice. The moment the project was finalized, she handed in her resignation. Her manager made a show of trying to convince her to stay, but he was clearly thrilled with Alara gone. The CEO's nephew, Marcus, could finally take her position. After quitting, Alara embraced the role of a homemaker to make things easier for us to be together. She moved in with me. I discovered just how much she loved creating a home. She spent her days tending to the plants on the balcony, shopping for new pillows for the sofa, or picking out the perfect dishes for a new recipe she wanted to try. These small things brought her immense, quiet joy. One day she was coming back from the grocery store, her arms full, when she ran into Julian at the entrance to my building. He wasn't as hysterical as before, but his eyes were still cold with hatred. Well, moved in together already? You really know how to climb the ladder, don't you? The second you found out Lucas had more money than me, you couldn't wait to play house. Alara tried to ignore him and walk past, but he blocked her way. You know, Alara, after all these years, you're still so naive it's pathetic. I was never going to marry you. Do you honestly think Lucas will? He stared directly into her eyes. You should know about his family. His father is the chairman of Sterling Industries. His mother is a diplomat. His grandmother founded a luxury jewelry brand, and his grandfather was a real estate tycoon. His maternal grandmother works for the Department of Education, and his grandfather was the president of a university. With a family like that, do you really think they'd let him marry a nobody like you? You want a family, but how dare you even dream of getting it with him? Or are you willing to be his dirty little secret for the rest of your life, tucked away in some golden cage waiting for Mr. Sterling to have a spare moment to visit you? You're pathetic. Alara, I almost feel sorry for you. So what if he stole you from me? One day you two will break up too. You'll break up and I'll be waiting to see it. Julian's words hit Alara like a tidal wave, forcing her to confront the fears she had subconsciously been avoiding. Lucas came from the same privileged world as Julian. Would he ultimately be forced to make the same choice? When Alara accidentally dropped a dinner plate, I knew I couldn't ignore her distraction any longer. I gently took her hand, which had a small cut from the broken ceramic. I carefully cleaned the wound with alcohol and bandaged it. All right, tell me what happened. You've been a million miles away all evening. She stared at me, her eyes searching my face. After a long moment, she asked, Lucas, are we going to break up? I looked at her, and it all clicked. You saw Julian today. It wasn't a question. Her silence was my answer. I laughed coldly to myself. So that's why Julian had been casually dropping hints to my aunt about my marital status. I'm not him, I said firmly. I am my own person. My choices have always been my own, and I follow my own heart. I told her stories from my rebellious youth, things I'd never told anyone else. I wanted her to understand that my life was not dictated by others. She listened with rapt attention, getting a glimpse into a past she never knew. I can't believe it. You seem so calm and collected, but you were actually so wild. I finished for her with a smile. She smiled back, a fond, gentle expression on her face. Actually, I've been meaning to ask. I always get the feeling that Julian is a little afraid of you. He's obsessed with competing with you. But I think deep down he's terrified of you. I smirked. That's because he's seen what I'm like when I'm truly angry. I didn't go into the brutal details. A man should maintain a little mystery. One summer when we were kids, Julian snuck out and ran into a group of kidnappers. I was the one who drove them off, or rather, I was the one who beat them to a pulp. After being rescued, Julian's first reaction wasn't gratitude. It was terror, not of the kidnappers, but of me. He had watched me knock their teeth out, had seen me put my foot through their most vulnerable parts. It was bloody, vicious, and raw. Thanks to my family's connections, the half-crippled traffickers ended up in prison, and in Julian's mind, my image was forever cemented as something to be feared. Alara didn't seem to be able to picture it. She cupped my face in her hands, her fingers tracing my features. My Lucas is a handsome, elegant gentleman. How could anyone be afraid of you? We all do crazy things when we're young. It's in the past. I wish I had met you sooner, she whispered. I looked at her, my heart full. Truthfully, I had often wished for the same thing. Julian's attempts to use our family to pressure me into an engagement failed. Instead, he was thrown into a panic when his illegitimate brother got engaged and received a chunk of company stock. Breaking up with Alara had been a calculated decision. And now that she was gone, he needed to reclaim what he felt was his. Through my aunt's connections, Julian quickly announced his own engagement. The fiancée was the youngest daughter of a publicly traded company. She had a wild reputation, but her family was wealthy and her older brother was competent enough to clean up her messes. The engagement put Julian back in his father's good graces. The old man thought his son was finally growing up and thinking about the family business. He even gave Julian a position at the company complete with stock options and real authority. Julian might have been a playboy, but he understood the importance of power. With no romantic entanglements to distract him, he could finally focus on competing with the army of illegitimate siblings. The news of the engagement between the Thorne and Lynn families was headline news for days. Of course, Alara saw it. Well, I teased, a hint of jealousy in my voice. Looks like your ex-boyfriend is engaged. Her expression was serene. What he does has nothing to do with me anymore. Seeing her calm, I dropped it. It was his choice. Julian was just getting back on the path that had been laid out for him from birth. I was, however, surprised by his choice of fiancée. It was an open secret in our circle that the younger Miss Lynn wasn't interested in men. It seemed Julian had opted for the same kind of open marriage as his parents had. Alara put her phone away and cheerfully went to the kitchen, announcing she had learned a new recipe she wanted to try. She had decided to start her own business, so her days spent cooking were becoming rarer. I cherished these moments we had together and wanted no interruptions. Lucas, she said, her voice soft, I've always wondered, why do you like me? Ain't nobody like me. I thought for a moment. I don't know. I just saw you and it felt right. Anyone else would have felt wrong. I can't give you a reason why I love you. But I know you're the reason I don't love anyone else. Remembering her silence on the beach, I couldn't resist asking, what about you? Do you love me? Her beautiful eyes sparkled as she looked at me. If I didn't, she said with a smile, why would that drawing still be my wallpaper? Back then, I knew I shouldn't feel that way, but I couldn't help it. You were so beautiful when you were drawing, and the art was beautiful, and everything about you was. I closed the distance between us. She tilted her head down and our lips met in a slow, tender kiss. I gave her lip a playful bite. I don't like rhetorical questions. I held her gaze and smiled. From that first jolt of attraction to this moment standing together, it didn't matter that it took a while. Meeting her was more than enough.